So, Mike, I wanted to go back to Pete Wehner's excellent column in the Atlantic, because there's been hand-wringing through how do we understand the Trump voters? We've all done it. What do we need to understand? What is this about? This is the forgotten working class man and woman. This is blah, blah, blah. At this point, this is about people, as Pete says, who are knowingly supporting a guy who has spewed authoritarian talking points, a guy who lies repeatedly, a guy who twists the facts, bends the facts, lied about the last election. And Pete, I wrote it down. He talked about how they don't like strong, if they're presented with strong arguments, compelling facts, they'll push away. I would say it's even more than that. They are allergic to basic facts. Donald Trump lies all the time. They are allergic to let's take the big lie, for instance. They know, Mike Johnson knows it's a big lie. Lindsey Graham knows it's a big lie. They have 63 federal judges and courts that said this is a big lie. They had a Supreme Court that said, United States Supreme Court that said this is a big lie. They know. With even Republican officials saying, from Georgia to Michigan, this is a big lie. They know it's a big lie. So what do? They go to websites that are funded by Qatar, or TV networks funded by Qatar, are funded and run as sort of a front for a Chinese religious cult. They know what they're doing. Yeah. Mike, at this point, the gig is up. They know exactly what they're doing. They're spreading lies in support of a guy who wants to be an authoritarian leader.
Pete came up with a marvelous phrase in that piece, motivated ignorance. And the motivated ignorance of Donald Trump has been a lifetime habit. A lifetime habit. He's been operating on motivated ignorance since he's been 17, 18 years of age. He did it all through his business career, all through his life, nearly every day. And in politics, he's done it consistently. And he has developed, indeed, a cult around him. Now, part of that cult, I would think, given human nature, you'd have to feel badly for, because they are people who bought into what Trump says in his motivated ignorance, thinking it was going to help improve their lives. Well, it hasn't. It hasn't. And that's the way you defeat Donald Trump. Point out the facts of people's existence. The big tax breaks that he always talks about. Did it help someone making $100,000 a year? No. It helped people making millions of dollars a year. And so now in the debate, for the first time, that motivated ignorance is going to be displayed publicly in an empty hall. There's going to be no crowd saying, oh, yeah, that's great, yeah, applauding if he does indeed walk towards President Biden's podium, if he does the crazy things that he's apt to do. It'll be met by silence, and he'll be told to go back to his podium. His microphone will be shut off. That, I think, is going to be the most interesting aspect of this debate, Amanda. I don't know whether you agree with me or not, but the fact that he's isolated, no crowds, no applause, no feedback.
Yeah, I do agree with that. I mean, we don't know what is going to happen, but I recall all the tales from White House aides who recount in great detail how Trump confronts people and approaches every conversation as essentially as an exercise in power dynamics. If you believe their tales about how he swears at people, uses physical presence in personal conversations, in the Oval Office, in Mar-a-Lago, which I do because I have no reason not to believe them because they're so entirely consistent. I do believe he'll be able to manipulate the stage in that way. I don't think personally, if I had to venture a guess, he will be intimidated by the lack of a cheering crowd because this is how he acts. You can't say that he's not authentic. He is authentically aggressive. He is authentically authoritarian. So I don't think he's going to have any problem trying to steamroll the debate moderators, correct, Joe Biden, and it will be an exercise for them to see how to constrain him.
Yeah, and Jonathan Lemire, I want to underline Mika's point. Mika, of course, always right. Underline Mika's point that Nobody knows TV better than Donald Trump. Nobody's used it more effectively than Donald Trump. He has spent hundreds of hours in a quiet studio, TV studio, and did quite well, knew how to play the camera, knew how to play the camera angles. And you know, I have been thinking all along that this would hurt Donald Trump. But Mika, I think you may be right. And
just real quick, Jonathan Lemire, it's not just the hundreds of hours doing The Apprentice.
I mean, he doesn't need to even practice for this, Mika.
Sitting there in quiet. He doesn't practice. If the camera's on, he's dangerous. He goes for broke. If you look at his depositions, those were on camera, super awkward, with the attorney of E. Jean Carroll, who's extremely talented, and Trump was despicable, distasteful, gross. He was anything he wanted to be in that deposition because a camera was on, and it causes him to light up in the most base ways, in my opinion. I don't think he's afraid of anything, and in his mind, he hears a huge crowd, like cuckoo. He hears a huge crowd in his mind. He can make anything happen. Jonathan Lemire.
Yeah, I mean, there's never been an American politician who's been in front of a camera more or more at ease in front of a camera than Donald Trump. That is certainly clear. The Biden theory of the case, though, they watched him do that CNN town hall a year or so back where he ran roughshod over the moderator and was cheered on by a bunch of Trump-loving Republicans. And that's what made them think, as I've reported, say, you know what, when we meet with this guy in a debate a year from now, we don't want a crowd. The other part of that is because the Biden team really wants this to be, as much as it can be, a policy-focused debate. And they feel like, well, Donald Trump will fall short in trying to discuss policy, or he'll reveal policies that are out of step with the American people. So the Biden team certainly feels good about the fundamentals, about the setting of this race. But you're right. We have seen Trump in debates before at times deliver strong performances. In 2016, the Republican primaries, he was unquestionably the star and winner of most of those debates. But we've also seen him really struggle in this format. And I think, of course, in 2020, when he completely bombed that first debate, likely sick with COVID at the time, though he didn't announce it yet. And that really helped Biden in the race. But what is very clear, and there's a lot of wild cards here, and neither man has done a debate in quite some time. It's early, but it's a significant inflection point in the campaign.
Yeah, I think it really is. And again, Mika, you're so right. I mean, he's done this so often. You know, we talk about practice. He doesn't have to practice. The guy doesn't need to practice at all between now and the debate. He can just walk out there because he spent his whole life doing this. So I think, personally, him practicing would be a waste of time.
All right, editor at the nonpartisan group Protect Democracy, Amanda Carpenter, thank you very much for being on this morning. We appreciate it. We'll see you again soon.